Yes, I know who will win the election in the United States. I was instructed to say those words and to use that title because I knew it would get more people to click on the video. Well, I received those instructions from my guidance from Wilhelm, and now I'm going to talk about it. But that is something that always comes up for when we hear about an election or politics. It becomes really frightening, and we have to ask ourselves why. Why are we so afraid of that? And then we start to understand, oh, wait a minute, this is energy that we all have and we've been carrying around, and we're going to decide what we're going to do with it. But I'm going to explain it because it's probably more important to think about what we do after the election, or why is the election in the United States so important? Why is it feel this time more important than any other election? Because there's so many that are going on all over the world this year for the first time ever in our history. That's because we're creating new history right now. And I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to explain it a little differently though. Last weekend, I was in Colorado. I was at Gaia and I was participating in a channeling conference. Now, of course, when I'm channeling Wilhelm, I don't remember it, but I do know that what happened, they said, everybody wants to know who's going to win the election in the United States. And they said, you. And what that means is that we each have a stake in it because it's about what are we important enough to matter? And we're always figuring that out as we live our lives. And we're always figuring that out in our civilization as well. And that's why this particular election is so important. But I was given information about it, so I'm going to talk to you. I've always been a person that I like to investigate things. I like to know what's going on and why. And I have been afraid of it, like you probably have been, because that means we have to really own ourselves. We have to reveal who we are, what we believe, and where we came from. But why would you live a life where you couldn't do that? But then we start to understand the science of it, though. And that's where the winning message comes through because everything is energy in our world. And when you start to understand, wait a minute, if it's energy and that's all that we're using to create something and I have it, so then that means I'm creating something. But you don't think about how you're creating something or what the level or the content of your energy might be. These are things that we are continually discovering and figuring it out. And I happen to be given a way to do that. We all come into the world to do something a little bit different, and we never know what it's going to be. We never know what the world is going to offer us. And I will tell you that this is probably the last thing I would have thought that I would have been doing now. The last place I thought I would be because I hid from myself, like you might have done. And that would be really the reason why elections make you really afraid, because you haven't developed that internal belief in yourself or empowerment to understand your right place in this world. But that is something that we move through individually and collectively because we're still trying to figure out who's the most important person. That's you. It's never your government. It's never a leader. It's never any of that. It is you because you can only experience your life through your consciousness and the consciousness you choose to hold. And you cannot expect anyone else to do that for you. And you also can't expect anyone else to change because you asked them to. It just doesn't work that way. It's got to be you. And this is what I'm going to explain. And I have a gift for you because I heard the other day from my guide Wilhelm, we wanted you to have a better life and a better world. Because when you understand that, when you start to have a better life, then we create a better world. No one is creating the world but us. And we do that through our choices. And sometimes they're really difficult because we're always in the process of evolution. So we don't think certain things are possible. We don't believe that we can accomplish certain things. And I didn't believe that. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to be 74. And that's when it all comes together. That doesn't even make sense, but it does. Because there are certain times in your life where you have to own yourself. You have to say, this is who I am. And then when you can do that, you start to help others. And then the election won't even matter because you're living in a different consciousness. And that's what I have developed. But I'm going to talk about it today because I got up this morning and was guided to do a message on any advice for today, which I'd like for you to see that one because it again showed the connection of all of us. And it said there's order in the universe, and there is. We just don't figure it out all the time, but there's order. You have a connection. You have something you were meant to do. That's why you came into the world. And when you make that connection to that, you have this really great life. But you got to go through all the other stuff. But guess what? Our world is doing the same thing. We just help it along. Let's put it that way. But let me show you this because I want you to have it. I put together several. I was guided to do this, and it's called, we wanted you to have a better life and better world, and you can have it because it's all just what you do with your consciousness. There's nothing else other than that. When we talk about healing, and I just put out another video about that the other day, because healing is internal. It's about what we decide to do, but that healing is the same for our world. When we start to own ourselves, then we heal in the world. This is what you're going to take because you're going to love it. It's going to give you so much information and it's going to give you a sense of clarity. It's going to give you a lot more peace and understanding. And you might get through this period a little bit easier because it will continue to be a little dynamic. When you understand that the planets are changing and it's causing us to perform and act in a certain way, and that's going to go on. We just know that in the next couple of weeks. But what you can do is have fun. You can love yourself and actually contribute to this much better world. And that's how you will get through this election. But let me share this with you because I'll explain why I put it together, why I was guided to do this, because it's about education. It's about understanding what's happening. And that's all of my work has been about that. My entire life has been about that. And my entire life has been about healing also, because I had to do it. We wanted you to have a better life and world. And it's broken up. We just put it into little parts so you can read it all. Because what will happen is there is just portions of the messages here, but I would love for you to read all of it and all the other information that will give you greater understanding. Greetings, embrace change, empower yourself, transform the world. Throughout my journey, I've often resisted the messages I was receiving, much like many of you might resist your own inner guidance. But what I've come to understand is that every piece of wisdom shared with me was meant to serve not just me, but all of us. I've realized that we're all part of a larger plan, one that invites us to embrace change, personal growth, and self love, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. And now I want to share with you what this means for you and your own life and the world. And so in part one, we explore the foundational principles of embracing personal transformation, beginning with self acceptance. That is the only thing. I'm just speaking on this because you'll read all of this. That is the only thing that any of us want is self-acceptance. And sometimes it's really challenging. It was challenging for me because I'm doing something very different. I started receiving information that in a different way, and accepting that was really uncomfortable. Fortunately, we're moving into a better understanding of consciousness now, where more people are open to different ways of receiving information. And we're going to go into part two. The focus of shifts towards understanding. We're talking about the broader context of societal and global transformations. That is what we're experiencing right now. That's why it's a little dynamic, let's say. So now this is what you'll come to understand. I received the very first message from Wilhelm, and you'll be able to read the entire thing in the document. We're just putting a portion here. But this is what I heard, the very first things. Yes, it is indeed wise for you to realize how powerful you are and also to acknowledge the innate benevolence of your being. You seem to consistently maintain a subtle fear that somehow you would use your power in an ego-oriented way to the detriment of others. The truth for you is exactly the opposite. For the more you gain, you give away. Now, I want you to understand that because that was that first message, and I didn't trust it, and I didn't believe it. I'm getting very clear guidance, but I couldn't tell you. I wasn't going to tell anyone. I spent more than 20 years hiding from it. And so I'm saying that you are awakening to something in your life now that you might have denied most of your life, but it's coming up. That's just part of our evolutionary path. And cognitive dissonance explained. I would love for everyone to read that because we all have it. And cognitive dissonance is that mental state where we're presented with information, but we can't accept it because we believe something else. When you understand neuroscience, which I've put a bunch of that in, you will get to see how this has happened. But it's going to be especially important for you to understand it now because you're going to meet people, probably even in your own family, that are going to have different ideas and beliefs that you do, and you can't figure out how they got there. And you can't change it unless you change yourself to a greater sense of understanding. That's all that's going to happen. Because when you are told something over and over again, you're going to come to believe it. And then even when something is presented to you that's different, you're not going to really accept it. I did that from 1989, you see. I was told that I had this, but I said, no, I can't do that. And I spent the rest of my life, most of my life, trying to hide it from you, from everyone, even my family. So that's what happens for us a lot of the times. Then I put in so many other things here because I wasn't going to start doing any of this. I'm just saying I've had a very long career of many, many other things. And so I never thought this was going to happen. But when I first agreed to start doing live channeling, I have to say I agreed because I was being pushed. I didn't want to do it. I did not want to expose myself, just like you. We don't like being seen all the time or being vulnerable. But I had to do it because Wilhelm said, well, if you don't do this, you're just not going to own your life. That's all of us. That's those steps that we could take into self-ownership. But anyway, the very first message that Wilhelm told me to use when I did this very first channeling session was this one, and you will read it. Money, love, control, and power are intricately woven together in your life, so much so that you have difficulty recognizing the distinctions. And that has gone on throughout civilization. As long as humankind has been on the earth, we move through periods of those kinds of control and power shifts. They're always happened. And you'll see so much more of that because that will give you a greater understanding of what's happening now. And we can all see, especially in the United States, how money has been used to control others. Because if we give you a lot of money, then you're going to believe us. Then you're going to do something. That's what happens. But it's not just now, it's gone on throughout history. And then this one. This is something that is a little different, and I'm going to explain it. In 2021, I was told that I was given all this information for the last 35 years that would help us move through this period. Then I was told that if I met someone that I would have been given a message on their birthday in 2012. We can't understand all the time the organization of the universe, but scientists are beginning to understand, and I'm going to start to understand so much more of it because it's turned out to be absolutely accurate. I didn't trust it at first, but then I started asking people, what's your birthday? Don't want to know your year, just your birthday. And then I find a message in 2012 that just resonates with them. So that message, October 14th, was the birthday of the CEO of Gaia. And when I went there and I'm told everyone that story. And then I went and started testing it with different people, and it was every single one of them was accurate. And with him, it was incredibly accurate because he had made changes to become the CEO because of what his birthday message had said. He was focused on certain other things, but he wanted to bring something greater to the world. It was funny when I walked in, I thanked him for helping to, uplift the consciousness of the world. He said, "No, it's all of us," which was really quite wonderful. And so that day that I was there and participating in the session, Wilhelm had told me they gave me a message the year before so I would know, and it was this one. Your anger, judgment, and hatred might be old. And when you read that one, you will understand so much more because it took me back several years, but I knew what was coming, you see. When we have beliefs and ideologies that have been restrictive, that we don't let go of, it causes problems in our lives, but also in the world. We come into the world to evolve, and we do that individually. It means we have to accept new information and more consciousness or a higher state of consciousness if we hope to live the lives we want to have. We think of that as our personal ascension, but what about the entire planet? Because there's a collective consciousness of which we are all part. And we typically don't operate much outside of that until we've been given permission to do so. I was given permission to do so because I had to do something that was so different than what had been done before. Then the before that, though, on the 4 years before, and you'll read this in the booklet, they gave me a message saying you do not know the origin of some of the difficulties you experience because they are quite old, meaning that we're seeing old beliefs that we can't get through and where to come from. Generations that are past. Consciousness does not leave. We carry it forth. And we have to decide if we're going to evolve and hold a higher state of consciousness within ourselves if we expect to see that in the world. Then I was told so many times, and when you read this message, it will make more sense because it was telling me in 2020 what we would be experiencing in our world now. And love is the most powerful force that exists. It is powerful because it does not restrict its energy. Most of us aren't doing that, though. We're either not loving ourselves because we've been taught to do that for whatever reason. So then we can't love others and we'll judge them to make them wrong because we haven't found that ability to love ourselves. And then we have a world that's in conflict. The logic will make sense because we're going to get to that part as well. And then why the United States? And this is from Wilhelm here. Several years ago, we said you would be moving through a restructuring in your world, and you are alive now because what you came to offer was needed and valuable, not only to you, but all that is. That was the message that came through, and I thought that didn't make a lot of sense to me until I started understanding the quantum sciences and knowing that we're all equally contributing to the formation of anything, the formation of our lives, who we are, and also our world. And I've just gone so much study into that, and I've put out many videos that you will find on my YouTube channel where I talked about it because I just wanted to bring more information, and you'll understand why, because that was part of my life mission. Um, None of you know beforehand. Our messenger did not know why we continually used that reference and doubted it as you have questioned your abilities and talents. We had him search for a scientific explanation. And when you connect your life and emotions to this description, you will begin to shift as well as understand more of the current conditions in your life and world. And so you'll go into and you'll read that message. But then what happened was I kept 2020, I'm receiving messages saying the United States would lead the way in this restructuring. And I'm going, why is that happening? Why are they saying that? And then we started seeing all the changes happening in the United States. And then it started talking about this Pluto return. Many people will not give this much credence because they might not believe in astrology or astronomy or anything, or you may not believe that the energies of planets or galaxies affect us. Well, there's evidence to the contrary that's being developed. We're always figuring out the interconnectedness of all of us. And so a Pluto return um, occurs when Pluto completes its orbit and returns to the same position it occupied at a significant starting point, such as a person's birth or a country's founding. Given that Pluto takes approximately 248 years to orbit the sun, individuals don't experience a Pluto return, but countries and civilizations can. And so then that's where we are. If you take the United States, what just kind of make it up. 1776, add 248, we're at 2024. Um, you can put that together because again, we'll find out if you studied sacred geometry, if you studied so many other things, you would find there is a connection that we are still figuring out, which is why so many are so fascinated with quantum sciences in every single aspect. But the effects for a country, the rebirth, redefinition. Whenever we go through a return, many people who study astrology might think of a Saturn return in their own life or something like that, because we're always questioning who are we going to become? What choices am I going to make for my life now? So the world is doing that. And so now the United States is moving through it and demonstrating that to the rest of the world as well. When you read all of this, it will make so much more sense for you. That's why I'm so glad that we put this together. And as you study it, you will feel a greater sense of calm, understanding, and you will get through things a little bit easier. Um, then it's let's go. Oh, global shifts. Yes, we are having profound upheaval, forcing a reckoning with hidden issues and unresolved problems within us and also within our world, especially the United States. We're trying to solve these old problems that we haven't done yet because what happened was the United States said, when it was founded, we're going to create a land that's equal and free and all for all. And then they looked and said, no, wait a minute, that hasn't happened. And now you're seeing others noticing that and attempting to make a change. The way it changes is when you start to appreciate who you are. That's all. Collective shadow work. That's really what's going on. If we don't look at what has been within us, and I'm going to just talk about this because you'll read all of this. Wilhelm has said we are eternal spiritual beings, and so just imagine that you've always existed, and you just have different lives that you come into, and you might have been some of those terrible people that you're looking at now. You see, so what are you going to do about that? Continue to hate them? Or are you going to move into loving of yourself, which transcends anything and everything? And I have had so much personal experience with that at my age because I've been through it, many changes of civilization throughout my life. So I do understand them. We have cycles of destruction and creation. We can't create something new until we take down the old within us, but also within our world. Then, why Kamala Harris? You see, I was given that. Wilhelm said that what has gone on, there's been an imbalance in the world, and especially in the United States, because all the focus is on the United States, because we've been the leaders of the free world for so long. So, yes, you can see those patterns. There have been other times in history where other countries were more important. You can go back to well, before the United States, it was Great Britain. It was and different empires that have existed, but now it's been that. And so, what they said, but there's been an imbalance that has gone on forever, and those shifts that are happening in the world would be bringing in more of the feminine energy, mainly for with women, but also with men. If men could embody more of their feminine energy, we would have probably have things a little different. We all have those energies. We just come to understand that later in life, probably, but we all have them. But we've also been, it's been imbalanced, and especially for the females because they carry more of that feminine energy, and you can see throughout history they've never been equal. And so they said, well, why don't you shift that? And what could be a better way than to look at a female, a woman, who's also a woman of color? Because that's the other thing that we have not fully accepted as a human race. This is why we keep making people less than ourselves, or we just don't feel that we are capable because it's just been programmed. That's all. Nothing in your world is accidental. Our messenger went to find Kamala's birthday message, and we directed him to another, which we have done with many of you. For we want you to accept the adventure of your life when you release your doubts. Here is the message for her at this time in your life and your world. Now, that was really funny, and when you read the message, you will understand it because I knew her birthday, but I was directed to find something else, and it just explained exactly what was going on for her and in our world. You'll love that so much. Why do Republicans seem to change? We've heard that. We've all talked about it. Even Republicans have talked about it, and we're trying to figure out what's changed. Well, we always change, and it's happened since the beginning of time. So I just thought we'd put in a little history because when we understand our history and why things are happening, it gives us greater sense of peace and calm, and but mainly ways of acting to kind of make something better. We've done it forever. And so you look at all the different times that things have changed throughout. I just wanted to give you all of this information because you will feel so much better just by having knowledge. Then there's so many others. Now the civil rights and party realignment, that's fascinating. Yeah, I lived through that. So I do remember. I was in Chicago in 1968. So I remember big changes and what goes on. And we get a little bit better, but we haven't gotten there. And this is why this is the best time for any of us to be alive because we have a great opportunity. Then the core message throughout this journey is transformational power that resides within each of us. And that is true. And I know that it is true for you because I've been given information. I've been given information about your birthday, and I know how valuable you are and why you're in the world now. That was something I could never say or believe or talk about and hid from it until it started happening, and I did it. And I've posted so much about it because I want you to understand you have an energetic connection on this planet that you are meant to thrive and become happy and successful. And that happens when you let go of all the old stuff. And then that happens in our world when we do the same thing. So, the collective change over linear time, and you stand at a pivotal time in your history now, but you have done it before, but many times, and you and your world have not been consciously aware of your choices, which we mentioned in our post about Barbenheimer. Okay, let me give you that one. Last year, you might remember there was this big thing that happened with the two movies, Barbie and Barbenheimer. It was a while ago. And I received two messages that saying that wasn't accidental. We're just not paying attention. Barbie, Wilhelm says that was to show that we have to move to a time where we can accept individuals, no matter regardless of their race or gender, in any type of a role. And we were being shown that. And then Oppenheimer, the movie, should they combine these? Oppenheimer was showing us we don't have to do the same things that we did before that created a bomb where we could just kill each other. As humans, we come to greater awareness and consciousness so we don't have to continue to do the things that we did before that did not serve us individually or our world collectively. So, all these periods you will read about, and you can see how over time we evolve and we become more aware and more accepting, but it is a process that for each of us. Then, early modern period, the 20th, 19th, 20th centuries, late 20th, all of them. When you look at all of this, you'll see that there's a progression. Just think about this. We can look at our world now. We've all been using AI. That is something that seemed like completely foreign many years ago. That was never going to happen. I was talking to my family, and I said, when I was a kid, we used to watch things like these TV shows, Lost in Space. It looked so ridiculous what they were doing. It was entertainment, but now we're seeing that it's happened. That's the progression of human consciousness. Now, you have always held the ability to create any life that you desire. Simply because you have not acknowledged or knowingly utilized this fact does not make this claim false. Several days ago, we gave you the message about being lazy. That particular admonition was to make you aware of the choices you are making in your thought in each and every moment of now. If you were to then consciously choose the thoughts that you can feel now, as it were, that are leading you to where you want to go in your life, then you are creating the life that you desire. We can hear day after day that our thoughts are creating our reality. They're electromagnetic. And then we forget. And then we go off and start doing something else. And I do understand it because I did so much of it. But once you get control of that, you can heal anything. And that's what I know we can do as well. Our lives, our bodies, our mind-body connections, and also our world. The reason We said you didn't believe Jesus, Tesla, or Buddha either. Mm. We said in a channeling session to him that his life mission was to marry science, spirituality, and human potential, which he has done with our work, as have many others. But you are all meant to progress. What that meant, I kept receiving this message to understand why others did not understand what Wilhelm was sending, because that's how we operate as humans. If all of us could have believed what Jesus had told us, we wouldn't be in this mess, would we? We would be forgiving. We would be honoring, knowing what we've done and correcting that rather than blaming others. We wouldn't make money and everything else the most important thing. But see, then Buddha said the same thing. And then Tesla, I kept wondering, why did they give me Tesla? And that was a whole thing because I was supposed to talk about technology, but see what he discovered later, because he was started as a Christian, but then later in his life, he said, well, that was too restricting. So he became talked about Buddhism and other traditions because they were freeing. You see, that's what came about. And I finally understood why I was receiving that and received it twice. When we can understand that as we evolve as a consciousness, why not include all kinds of ideas? Then, through my years of channeling and personal development, it has come to me through Wilhelm that the ideas of Carl Jung, C.S. Lewis, and Bertrand Russell converge in a way that offers a profound path for humanity. This realization is not merely intellectual. It flowed through me, and I have been documenting it all along, even when I didn't fully see it. I now understand that this vision is meant to be shared with others as it has the potential to guide our world toward continuous evolution. And so I wrote an article, and many of these you'll find on my website, rogerburnley.com. I've written them because many years ago I said I might be channeling Carl Jung because I'd never studied Carl Jung. Didn't know much about it, but I started seeing that the work was aligned with that. And then I started understanding synchronicity too, because that's a connection scientifically that we can make now. Then I started listening to C.S. Lewis, which I had not done, which was quite funny because coming back from Colorado on the airplane, I was guided to listen to another recording. And I said, that is exactly the information that Wilhelm has given me. But then years ago, I discovered Bertrand Russell, and that was quite different because, see, he was an atheist. He didn't believe in any of that. He had to have concrete things. And that's what I've had to have too. I had to go, I would receive things intuitively and I have to go and check it. Give me some scientific proof, which went back to saying that what I was meant to do was marry science and spirituality and human potential. And I know that it worked because it healed me and it can heal anyone. And that's the part that was really surprising for me to discover that. When I first started doing the private channeling, I would take the birthday of that individual, and it was always so accurate, and we could have a really great time. But then it changed. They said, now we're going to give you something else. Go and look at different years in their lives, and that even worked. And then we said, people started asking, what about this year? And then I'd go back and find a birthday message in that year for them, and it was all resonant. There are things that we can't accept all the time. I couldn't because I couldn't accept how I was healing. I couldn't accept how I came to this greater understanding and how I moved through everything in my life that was all terrible. But now I know that we can. And so now I know that you can. So, and this is, I'm going to tell you this part so you get it because I'm really expanding now because we all must do that. Your last development is a way for individuals to embrace this unity, to take part in their own individuation and spiritual growth, grounded in both love and reason. That's what I've developed. In 2021, when I was told that I was given everything in 2012, made no sense to me because I didn't know I had done it. Since 1989, I sat down every day and received information, not recognizing I am creating a philosophy. I am being given a philosophy, and it was grounded in science and connected to any individual. Now, you may not believe that, and I get that because I challenging for me. This is why I put up the message today, where you can see the continuity of how things happen. Nothing occurs other than how in our consciousness. That's all that it is. No consciousness has more than another or less. It just doesn't. It's just what we think about it. And if we are willing to change our beliefs and accept more of ourselves. All of my work is about getting the individual to accept who their unique life path and so they can prosper and thrive. And I know everyone can do it because I've seen it. That's the part. And so what I'm doing now is finishing all of this. I'm saying that because it kind of surprised me. Those people who have followed me know that this was not something I was going to do. And even being doing live channeling or private channeling was not something I was going to do until I found that it was so incredibly valuable, not for me, but for others. Because when I'm in that state, I'm accessing different information. I could never explain it to anyone, but we have a connection, we have consciousness, we have universal consciousness to which we're all connected. We may not believe that or accept it about ourselves. And again, that would only be because of what we've been programmed or taught to believe. But it's changing. And what I'm saying is that accepting that I had developed something, had been given something that took all these years that could give any person the ability to live the life they're meant to have and become happy, prosperous, abundant, and help the world. Yeah, it's true. That's what's happened. And it took me so long to accept that. But going to Gaia clicked it into another gear because I had to walk out on that stage and become my authentic self, which is the thing that is uncomfortable. I've been on many stages in my life doing for a long time because I've done so many things. But to walk out without the shield, that was uncomfortable. But now I love it. Now it's becoming, it's home for me. And I'm going to do more. And I'm going to develop all of this work. And so anyone who comes into it will see they're going to change their lives. They're going to have everything they want. And we'll start creating a much better world. That's what's going on. And that's how we move through the election. That's what I'm doing. And so you will do it when you start to love yourself and do the thing that you can, because I know everyone has it. And that is probably the most thrilling thing now when I can, and I tell my clients all the time, all I'm doing is kind of giving you confirmation because you know you have things in your thinking that you know you're supposed to do, but you doubt it. I did it, so I get it. But that's why I can guide others because we're each supposed to do that. We're each supposed to live a life where we prosper and develop something, and so others can develop through that. And we're going to do that now through the country of the United States because we'll create something much better when more people come to love themselves and others. And that's the work that I'm doing. Please subscribe to the channel if it's your first time here, and be sure to take your copy of this information because you will love it and it will change your life. See you soon.